So I need to make a box for my dad's birthday. Walnut. I've got basically 2 days to do it. Not sure if I can get it done in time. So wish me luck. Starting on the planer. So I didn't get a chance to video it last night because I was really under pressure and I just had to get it done. But I'm moving along nicely with just a little box to put a planer in for my dad's 70th birthday. So I'll show you what I did here. I just got some walnut planed in thickness it to the right depth, put a little rebate in, and then a 45-degree corner. So the box just goes together with the base and the full corner. It's really simple. I've sanded the insides to the final finish at about 180 grit, which is plenty. I'm just about to glue it together. So when you're doing this, it's really important to have a bucket on hand with some fresh water and a cloth to clean up straight away, and then all the clamps that you're going to need. So before I actually do the final glue up, I'm just going to clamp it together, check that it does clamp together properly so that I don't have any problems when I go to do it. So I'm just going to do that now. Okay, so it's a good job I checked. I can see because the base is just, I took a slight bit extra off to make sure it fitted okay. I take it a bit too much off, which means the box is going to move around. So I think the best way to do it is actually to lay out some tape and stick them together, stick it together that way to make sure I get a perfect fit. So I'm just going to do that. Okay, great, I'm happy with that. So, pull this tape sticks forever. Let's pull this apart and get some glue in there. Okay, so I want to make sure that all the insides of the joints and the inside of the groove is all well glued. But I don't need too much because I don't want it to squeeze out everywhere. So. Okay, so that's the glue in all the edges. Next step is assembly. Okay, so as you can see, that box is pretty square there. Everything's just right. All I need to do now is leave it, but you want to get as much of the glue off now as you possibly can because it's a bind to do it later on. So let's go ahead and done. Show you there, we've got most of the glue out, there's a tiny bit left in there. It's started to set now, so okay, and then underneath tiny bit more squeeze out here, from where I messed around with the clamps. You know, overall, I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so all I've got to do now is leave that to dry for maybe an hour or something like that, and then we can come back and do the lid. See you then. Okay, it's now 6 hours later, so let's see how we got on. Okay, it's pretty good. Let's get it sanded. Pretty happy with that. Okay, so now we're on to the lid. Yeah, so this side is probably the best one. And now all we've got to do is glue it and clamp it on there. So I've cleaned everything out of the inside of the box. There's very little left. Okay, so I'm just putting this on the edge because I don't want it to squeeze inside the box. Okay, so that's the lid on now. So we'll just wait till that's dry, then we'll bandsaw the edge off, get a flush cut bit, go all the way around it. I'm now going to cut the box back here to make it into a kind of nearly half and half opening box. I might add some splines to it, I'm not sure yet, see if I've got time. But that's it for now, another hour to wait. Okay, so that's it, we're giving it a couple of hours for the glue to set, so we're just going to take it off now and see how it's set. Okay, that's pretty good. It's just what we need for now. So the next job now is just to go and bandsaw this off before we do the flush cut on the router, and maybe sand the bottom where we've got some lovely clamp marks. Okay, so that's the edges all taken off roughly. Next, onto the flush cut bit on the router table. So I wanted to give you a quick update on the box. I had to get cracking last night and ran out of memory cards, so here we are. I decided in the end not to use hinges, and I just inserted a piece of ash all the way around this edge here. I just stuck it in and clamped it in, and then I really gently sanded it until it fit absolutely perfectly. And I put a piece of foam in here. Then inside the box itself, I put a little kind of block to hold the plane that I want to go in there. And I think it came out pretty well. So if you see now, the box just snugs together like this, and that's our finished box. Then I also sunk in our logo in the top here, which does just pop out, but I've got to screw that in. So now it's on to finishing. So to finish, I'm going to use Osmo extra thin wax because wax oil, because with it being walnut, you can't use the normal stuff, or else it takes too long to dry and doesn't sink in properly. So just about to start that now. Here we go. We've got our finish here. So this is Osmo super thin. The code is 1101. Fiberglass transparent. Just give it a good shake up. And then when it comes to finishing itself, I would use one of these 3M pads. If you want to find out more information about this, go to Peter Parfitt's channel, the New Brick Workshop. It's absolutely brilliant video that he did comparing all of these, and this is by far the best one. So I'm just going to cut a little piece of that. Now, you really do need only a tiny bit to start with, and then I'm going to get some gloves. So I would suggest when using Osmo, get yourself a little plastic cup and just pour just a tiny, tiny bit in, you see? That's all you really need, about that much. Certainly for one coat anyway, and then get the lid back on. And then I'm just gonna dip the end of this in here. Now the first area that I put this in, I wanna make sure I've got plenty of room to spread it out. So I'm gonna go inside of the lid. I don't know if you can get the shimmer on there, but you can see it's way too much, so you have to really work it to get the most out of it. Now you notice I haven't gone on the inside edge of the ash. Now I don't want to do that because I don't want it to affect the way the box opens and closes, especially as it could be sticky to start with. Okay, so now that I've got to that stage, I'm just going to pop that down, get some tape and put it on this edge here so that it doesn't get covered in Osmo. Okay, so as you can see, I've got that as close as I can all the way around the edge. So make sure it's tucked in as much as you can. Okay, now I can go ahead and carry on with the edge. As you can see, I'm going back into this piece in the middle here to get some more fluid on. You've really got to work it into the wood. Work it, work it, work it. Just take your time with this first coat. You just want to make sure that everything's got a cover on it. That's all you really want to do. And make sure it's properly pushed in. But I don't know if you can see that close up. Let me get behind the camera. Get this kind of lovely sheen. You can see there's no excess fluid whatsoever because we've used such a little. I mean, as you can see, this stuff goes a really, really long way. The real beauty of doing it is that like this is almost as soon as you've done, you know, as soon as you've finished, it's almost dry because you put such a little amount on and you've really worked it and worked it and worked it. And I'll show you a trick with the sander in a minute, which helps speed that process up even more. Okay, so just keep going back over. Double checking that you've got every spot. And of course you will get fingerprints all over it. So you have to bear that in mind. You have to come back to it and sort that out. So finally then onto the top, just get another tiny bit on the end here. Squeeze it off, and just to let you know, this is the kind of quantity we're talking. This is probably too much, okay? So I'm just gonna squeeze a little bit out here and then just start on the edge like this, okay? So I'm just gonna get inside here, make sure this is all protected as well. I don't want it building up in the corners, you know, which is why I would use such a little amount. And then go ahead and finish the rest of the top. See, when you think the stuff's run out, you just turn the cloth over and you realise you've got a lot more to go. So now I feel like I just want to get a bit more in there, so I'll just turn it over. It's like brand new again. Okay, so that's going to do for now. That's looking really nicely covered. And in comparison to this, you see you get this constant wet look. So I'm just going to pop this down here on the masking tape over here. Like I said, we're going to come back to that in a few minutes. I'm going to show you a trick with the sander which just helps do an even better finish as well. So for the next one, you need to get in here. It doesn't matter whether you rub with the grain or against the grain on this first coat, you just got to get it into the wood, make sure it's soaked in there and into those corners as well. Okay, so I've got these little painter's triangles. Okay, and away we go. Okay, so that's our box pretty much complete, but you know, as you can see, there's bits of fingerprints all over it. So now we need to just go and sort that out. So this is where I get to show you my special trick. So what I found is you should always cut maybe a tiny little slither off this. I'm just going to cut the corners out and you'll see why in a minute. But this is for going back and getting any excesses that might be left in the middle perfectly clean, just for taking that off. Now next I want to just use this on the base of my sander, then I can get in and just polish it with a sander and you'll see how great that comes out. Okay, so if you've got an orbital sander like this with a hook and loop pad, all you need to do is get one of these sheets and pop it over the top. Now make sure you do it as high as possible to avoid any waste, and then you've got yourself a really good osmo polisher. So all you need to do is just roughly cut around the edges. So obviously you can only use it on big surfaces. So for this lid, I'm just going to go over with this and make sure there's no excesses there. I'm going to take this tape off now. Okay, now this is almost dry to the touch, yeah? So I'm not leaving fingerprints in it anymore. So what I'm going to do now is turn my sander onto the lowest setting and just give it a nice polish. So that's the first coat of osmo done. Now I need to leave that for, I don't know, a few hours, usually 10 hours. I usually do it overnight. In this instance I'm not, because I need to get the second coat on later today. So I'll leave it as late as I can for today and then do a second coat. But like I say, this is virtually dry to the touch, and it's almost ready to go. So fantastic news. So as you can see, this is almost ready to go now. It just needs one more coat of osmo and that's it, we're done. It's important to note the only thing that dries osmo is fresh air, so putting it near a heat source or anything like that won't really help, but putting a fan on it if you really need to dry it quickly is probably the best thing that you can do. So I think that's what I'm going to do with this one. I'm just going to put it over by a fan because I want to make sure it dries as soon as possible. I mean, it's not tacky at all, maybe very, very slightly. Because I put it on so thinly. So that really is the key with this stuff, the thinner you can possibly do it. And you know, you saw how much I poured in this tiny container. It was about 5 mils or something like that, and that's done this whole little box. So if you're using more than that, then you've got a problem basically. So I hope that helps anyway with regard to using osmo, and I'll come back to you and show you how we do the second coat and what the final product looks like. Thanks. One box completed. So I know I didn't show you the very last parts of it, but all I did was osmo the box for a second time, which is exactly the same as the first. I went over it with my little sander thing with the pad attached to the bottom, and then I screwed in our logo, which as you can see is here. So I think it looks pretty smart. I'm just putting it in front of a fan now to dry it because I need it to give it away tomorrow, so it's really important that it dries quickly. But to give you an overall finished box, this is what it looks like underneath, around the back, and a little bit inside there to hold the plane. And then the lid just pops on like this and just pushes nice and tight and just fits like that. So overall, I think it's a super project. I absolutely love it. I think it's one of the nicest things I've ever made. And I just can't wait to give it away. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, please click and subscribe and wherever you've got to go to do that. And I hope to see you on the next video. Thanks a lot. Bye.